Pilots still do the hardest part, which is landing the damn thing. Chat is so fucking dumb today. We're not even talking about helicopter landings either, by the way. We're talking about fucking plane landings. Helicopters are still mad fucking dangerous too by themselves. No fucking chance do I get into an autonomous heli. Yeah. Call me a Luddite, baby. All you want, okay? I am not with it. I am not with it at all. I'm sure if I asked my fucking aerospace and mechanical engineer brother who fucking builds satellites for a living, I'm certain he would have a similar point of view on this as well.
From a former Cy Young winner. They might make contact a few times in 100, but they're not getting a hit.
Planes are unidirectional, meanwhile helicopters are multi. Besides, these are made to fly over highly chaotic areas if you compare them to relatively stable high altitude commercial flights. Yeah. It's fucking nuts, dude.
AI detects an obstacle, it avoids it. There is no such thing as a...
I love so many people in my chat were like, oh, trains are too expensive, or trains are not good enough. There were like people in here that were fucking shitting on trains, and now they're turning around and saying like, I would love to get into a fucking autonomous helicopter. Like, you are out of your mind, dude. Like, no, fuck that. Build a goddamn train, dude. Trains are fucking awesome. High-speed rail everywhere. It's just funny because, like, helicopters that are flown by, like, you know, professional fucking pilots who have done this for years still drop all the fucking time. I mean, I don't want to bring this up, but it's like, think about fucking Kobe. Like, helicopters are so unsafe, dude.
Pedestrian in the sky, or complex elements to read like traffic signals and speed limits. But it's still maneuvering through three-dimensional space with people on board and below. First things first, these craft have to take off, fly to their location, and land all the passengers in one piece. For that step, you need pilots, and the pilots will have to be employees, not partners. Uber's preferred method of keeping costs down. The other hurdle is building the infrastructure, which means the vertiports and hubs for the craft to come and go. Naturally existing airports are at the center of early plans, with services of hoping to connect commuters from cities and suburbs to airports that are notorious for their congestion. That comes with its own challenges, with preventing the short-range craft from getting in the way of long-range craft, as well as accompanying landing fees that every other craft would face. Should these loft plans come to fruition, they would dramatically reshape our living space landscape, similar to the way the automobile did in the 1950s. Since the suburban boom that accompanied the automobile and manufacturing boom after World War II, there has been a slow return to urban centers as lengthy commutes and heavy traffic have taken their toll on people who...
Pro drivers crash, what's your point? I wonder what my point is. If every single time you got in your fucking car, the likelihood of you crashing, adjusted to how much you fucking drive, by the way, of course, adjusted how much you drive, and like the utility that you get out of it, adjusted for the utility and the fucking amount of times that you drive. If we looked at that and compared it to fucking helicopters and how much they fucking crash, you would never drive a car if that was the same exact fucking point. Okay? That would not be a thing. Like, we would not be driving cars. It would literally be like, every time you get in a car, you're crashing and dying and killing people. No, it's higher for cars because of the amount of fucking driving that is done. Everyone fucking drives. Cars are more expensive than fucking flights as well, obviously. But the reason why flights are safer than helicopters is because of the amount of fucking crashes that occur when adjusted to the consumption and when adjusted to the fucking amount of crashes that happen over a long period of time. I work for the FAA as an AE. Or take on helicopters versus planes. The bad one. Helicopters are more dangerous because they are near impossible to recover with pilot or not. They are near impossible to recover? Wait. What do you mean? Oh, you're saying like once a helicopter is fucking slated to crash, like it's over. It's very difficult to recover, as in like bail or you know, land safely in the way that you are able to with the plane, right?
Sunday.
Helicopters are so much more complicated than flying a plane. Also not easy to keep steady and smooth in the air. You need to be a solid pilot to fly a heli safely every time you go in the air. Almost went to school for it. Got scared shitless when I actually looked into it. Also, light breezes and any sort of like irregularity in the air will fuck the entire trip up.
DMC, thanks for the daily entertainment and the political insights.
Commercial flight lands and takeoff by autopilot is on 90% of the time. Helicopter and downspin in dead. Yeah, you can't glide it and like land it safely is what you're saying when there is any sort of problem. Also, cars have a ton of shafty shit, but safety shit, but if you fuck up in a helicopter, you die. Yeah. Uber will be able to drone strike me and my 14 white friends straight to Post Malone's Coachella set. Pog. Dude, this guy has the funniest takes in the chat. He's one of the funniest. Helicopter can make an emergency landing with an engine failure. I trust an autopilot drone over an autopilot car. I'm not even talking about autopilot cars yet. Autopilot cars are insanely... Are helicopters safe? How they stack up against planes, cars, and trains? Amtrak 20 scheduled charter flights. Driving or riding a car. The charter's data compiled. As you can see, the only mode of transportation in the some realm is driving is general aviation, and even general aviation by measure is safer than driving. Also, with all modes of transportation, these averages are comprising very different situations. General aviation's average includes new recreational pilots without instrument trainings who accidentally fly into storms, as well as an experienced airline and military pilots who fly their own planes on their days off. Similarly, as experienced airline, helicopters often serve tricky missions such as dangerous rescues from hard-to-access places for which few other vehicles are suited. What? Dude, this is the most fucking slanted argument I've ever seen in my entire life, dude. This is the... My guy's literally talking about defending helicopter crashes because, you know, helicopters go to unsafe places. It's like, well, are you fucking insane? Like, think about driving a car or an SUV. Like, he's literally saying, well, you know, general aviation has, like, you know, inexperienced pilots. Dude, what's the fucking barrier of entry for being an inexperienced pilot versus driving a fucking car? Any moron who has to breathe manually to remind themselves to fucking consistently breathe manually could get a driver's license and start driving. The fuck are you saying? I have been in a downed helicopter. They don't fall like bricks. It's called auto rotation. Mount Everest and shit. Yeah, that's why. Here's the full ranking of how much more likely you are to die, roughly by traveling a similar distance on US. On each mode of transportation with airlines as the baseline, the death index is the number of times more likely you are to die. For example, the data in the chart below shows a person's travel by US by intercity rail is 20 times likely to die from that mode of transportation while traveling the same approximate distance as compared to someone flying on a scheduled passenger flight, though the rates are low for each. The most common reason for auto rotation is an engine malfunction or failure, but auto rotation can also be performed in the event of a complete rail. Like, this is the most... Dude, you have to be so fucking horny to defend helicopters. You have to be so fucking horny to defend helicopters to think that this is, like, not faulty data. First of all, it's measured off of distance. Secondly, I don't even know if it's adjusted to the amount of car crashes, to how much fucking cars are in consumption. Lastly, he's trying to defend even the general aviation, like private planes. Like, It's nuts.
Pog love you, dude.
The data literally proves you wrong. Yeah, if your fucking brain processing power is so low that you think that this is an accurate way of analyzing this situation. Helicopters say, why is there a movie called Black Hawk Down? Good one. What if Streamer Mall did? Wouldn't you feel safer on the road if they were all AI instead of psychos? Yes, if everyone was using AIs, I would feel safe on the road. I mean, even though the trolley problem still exists, but congratulations, we are so proud of your accomplishments. Bro, stop. 100% of helicopter sims used to identify as an attack helicopter joke. The joke on trans people proved me wrong. Dude, you are fucking dumb. I can't believe you're dying on this hill. Okay. Okay. Are less helicopters overall than there are cars. There is an infinitely higher level of knowledge that you need to have to fucking operate a helicopter than to operate even a fucking plane, and certainly to operate a fucking car. Miles driven compared to deaths is also fucking insane. How should the death rate be calculated if not per use and distance? The way you should look at the death rate is not by distance, but by adjusting it to, well, you can't adjust it to utility. They're not saying total number of deaths wins this. That's why the data is adjusted. You were wrong. I don't think chat is intelligent enough to understand the concept of data bias and variance. The stats take that into account. You Pepe hands. Okay. Flights are overall safer than driving a car. I understand this. Okay? I'm not saying that like driving in a fucking car is going to be more dangerous or less dangerous than getting in a fucking plane and flying. Okay? I think that there is a better way to adjust between planes and commercial travel that is readily available with between that and trains and cars. But when you add helicopters into the equation, there is an entirely different set of like variables that you need to factor into. Does the train data include suicide by jumping in front of trains? Otherwise, I can't see where all these inner city deaths are coming from. No, when one train fucking gets clapped up, there's always like Amtrak fucking accidents and shit. I personally think the mode of transportation is superior. The difference between some kind of not yet existing multi-rotor drone crash. No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about fucking helicopters.
Congrats, Bad Bunny Piker. PS Heelys are safe.
How many drunk helicopter pilot accidents have been there? Dude, you can't fucking operate a helicopter when you're drunk. Of course there's going to be more fucking deaths in a car. Like, it's not something you can compare currently. That's the point I'm trying to make. Like, it's impossible to fucking compare a helicopter to, like, car crashes. Everyone has a fucking car. Everyone drives. It's so fucking dumb. This comparison is so idiotic. I don't understand why. Like, what am I? I feel like I'm not seeing something that you guys are seeing that is causing me not to recognize why this is so fucking idiotic to make a comparison over. Like, if every single fucking person, like, could get a helicopter and drive it as easily as a fucking car, what do you think the death rate would look like? Do you think it would not adjust to the level of fucking knowledge you need to have to fucking drive a helicopter? Just lifting off is on its own a data point of potential fail. The overall average speed and the effects the speed has on the body and mechanics are different for each mode. It's infinitely more difficult to gather all these points of data by looking at like it's a plane. There's so many different variables within helicopters. Like, there's so many different variables and so much harder to fucking compare helicopter flight to regular fucking aviation. This is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard you yell about. I just don't understand why there are like a lot of people who think I'm being stupid or something. And I don't know why they think that, and I'm trying to comprehend it. Like, people are saying it's significantly harder. People are saying it's significantly more likely to die in a fucking car in comparison to a helicopter. And it's such an idiotic comparison to make, considering the fact that you can't fucking, like, go and try to purchase a helicopter and fly it. Like,
Aloha.
The barrier of entry is so insane. Like, the comparison is psychotic, is a psychotic one to make. Kind of crazy how confidently you fail to understand the underlying data here. The underlying data is moronic because you can't make this fucking comparison. Oh my lord, dude. What are you... Dude, are you being purposely obtuse? Are you being purposely... You're being proven wrong by data. Oh my god. 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 This is why Debate Lord Andes have, like, actually... And I'm being a little ableist here, I think, but, like, a part of Debate Lord Andy's brain cells does not fucking function, where they see like data laid out in front of them without taking into consideration any of the other factors that the data might not be showing them. They say, well, the numbers don't fucking work that way, so that must be the reality. I'm doing it again every fucking Sunday. Every day it has to be. Every day it has to be. There has to be a situation where, like, I have to get stonlocked into oblivion for like 3.5 hours with people saying bad look sweaty, bad look sweaty, bad look sweaty over and over again. I thought you were saying it's fundamentally more dangerous to fly than to drive, but did you just change up? No, I said that, of course, a fucking flight, an air flight in a commercial plane is going to be less dangerous overall than a fucking helicopter. And the reason why we can't comprehend that is because there aren't enough fucking helicopters. The variables are far too significant, and there aren't enough fucking pilots and helicopters in action for us to ever even make this comparison. And if helicopter flights or VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing fucking flights, whatever you want to call it, were commonplace as regular fucking cars, we would have a shitload more deaths and accidents. But currently, the barrier of entry to fucking drive a helicopter or fly a helicopter, whatever the fuck you want to compare it to, is significantly higher than getting a car and driving a car and fucking and getting in a car crash. Of course, you can't drunk drive a helicopter. You can't drunk drive your daddy's helicopter. You can drunk drive your daddy's fucking SUV though.
Of course, helicopter crash data is lower. Chat is actually trolling you, bro. No one is actually disagreeing with you in earnest.
Like, they're saying, oh god, they're saying, like, look at the deaths per capita, right? Like, oh, deaths per capita, bro, across the board, like, with fucking helicopters, like, the death per capita is lower, dude, especially if you factor in distance. Like,
hi.
Cannot make this fucking... Just say that the data does not show the influence of confounding variables and move on. No, that's not enough. The problem here is people look at this information and unironically and uncritically assume that if we adjusted the number of fucking helicopters that are in action, okay, and we increased it, that like the variables that are not being considered in this circumstance would not fucking completely fuck the data up. They think that it would be constant. It would, oh, well, look at the fucking deaths per capita in a helicopter ride in comparison to a car ride. Like, obviously, it's going to be the same, and it's not going to be adjusted to utility.
Yes.
You were making a lot of assumptions about the data that you don't have proof for. I mean, do you want me to give you some of the proof? For example, the average time it takes for you to be able to get a helicopter's license in comparison to the average time it takes for you to train to get a regular driver's license. Another example, do you not think that that's a significant variable here? Do you not think that would imply that currently the way we're looking at it, you have to be very fucking competent to be able to fly a fucking to fly a helicopter?
Where is Sunday Fun Day?
If everyone drove a car, was a professional with 20 years experience like helicopters, there would be a lot less deaths too. Even then, they would have to, no, there would also have to be, I'm glad you're pushing back hard on this because chat's fucking gaslighting you. You're fully right because of the statistical variables and the reasons helicopters are generally more unsafe. Also, the simple fact that the operation of a helicopter is much more difficult than a car. Like, it's so frustrating. It's so fucking insanely frustrating. I feel like I have actual psychopaths in my audience that are just doing this to literally just like fuck around. I don't know what it is.
Interesting, but have you considered BOFA?
Oh. Mango just using vague words. There's nothing vague about the the amount of variables that I have tried to fucking describe to you over and over again. The standard metric the FAA uses accidents per flight hour. This corrects it for amount of usage utility because more usage doesn't increase the percentage of accidents, just the absolute number of accidents, assuming the standards of training and maintenance are not lowered. Helicopters have less than one accident per 100,000 flight hours, which is overall very safe. Obviously, commercial airplanes are safer, but helicopters are not unsafe at all generally.
List unlocking plus Y.
Okay. You're comparing helicopters to commercial flights and saying commercial flights are safer than helicopters. Yes, I agree. I said that already. Anyway.
Chat,
You don't need to prove your point. The article should be the one to provide the proof of their own data. No, this data is not a good indication of like what's safer than what mode of transportation is safer. But it's good for fucking helicopter fans to be like, nah, dude, you're fucking wrong. Like, the data shows it. Law, someone who disagrees with you equals psychopath. I mean, sometimes the dudes who disagree with me are psychopaths.
Interview and dance performance on Kodamiko's stream and returned like an hour later to you still being stun-locked by helicopters.
I think I might end the stream early today. I'm so fucking mad, and not even mad at the people who are fucking throwing up the numbers argument and saying that like, oh, statistically helicopters are safer in like the most idiotic way possible. But the fucking fact that the most common meme in this community is, you're still stun-locked. Yeah, bitch, I'm still fucking stun-locked. Just don't come back then. How about that? It really fucking pisses me off more than anything else when people are like, oh, dude, you're still stun-locked. Oh, you're still stun-locked. Yeah, I am, bitch. This is what I fucking do. I get stun-locked. Shut the fuck up.
Warning ahead. Oh, that last shot! We are joined today by the overall visual effects supervisor for The Boys.
It's so fun to see you guys' reaction.
It's a
I ended TTS. GG's. Good job. You did it.
Those communists are amazing.
Good job. You did it.
whale exploding from a boat hitting it.
This was very, very complicated to pull off for so many reasons you guys don't even know.
Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this episode. Stick around to the end to see how you can save 15% off your order. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Visual Effects Artists React. We are joined today by a very special guest, Stefan Fleet. Now, Stefan is the overall visual effects supervisor for The Boys on Amazon, and it's a total honor and a privilege to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. To me, it's an honor. It's an honor to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Stefan, tell us a little bit more about what you do.
I figure out how we're going to shoot it technically and creatively, and I'm there on set, work with my team on set, work with the directors, everybody. Come back, and I work with like 7 to 10 visual effects companies at any given time to get the show done. It's definitely the best thing I've ever worked on in my life. It's that golden triangle. Great people to work with, great content, and the money's not bad.
I gotta give everybody a big warning here. If you haven't watched The Boys, I'm gonna spoil the heck out of it, so you should get on it. It's a great show. Oh, are we going right into the whale? Literally? One of the most notorious sequences from season 2. Is that like a full CG water, full CG whale?
So that is a full CG water, full CG environment. ILM London did all of this whale work.
Oh wow, really?
We really try and bury the CG as much as possible in the show so it's not noticeable as much as you can in this day and age. And what's great is camera movement helps a lot with that. It's like a magic trick. Like look over here, So the way they did camera movement, the splashes of water on the lens, all this visual noise adds to a better shot. The only thing that's not CG is part of Chase Crawford, the Deep. So what happened was he was shot on a blue screen outdoors in a garage. I insisted that we shoot it outdoors.
Okay,
because
good.
I think if you're doing a daylight exterior, even if you're doing green screen and trying to put plates together, you should really try and shoot outside, because trying to get studio lights to recreate the sun, it's tough, man.
It turns out light bulbs are not as bright as fusion.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You'll get.
Thank you, Lenny and Carl, for the 10 tier 1 gift subs. God damn, dude. I'm like actually fucking upset. Holy shit.
Some pushback sometimes because you start thinking about the logistics of how visual effects works in TV. What's great about it is you can do a lot of it indoors, and they call that rain cover. So all of a sudden, if it's raining and they don't know what to shoot that day, they're like, oh, let's go shoot some driving comps on the thing or whatever, you know? And we don't do driving comps on the show, by the way. That's a mandate for me and Eric. Yeah, it's all real driving.
All right, I was about to say, I was like, I look like real driving to me. I think green screen and blue screen is way overrated. It's like, you're gonna end up probably rotoing some of the green screen stuff out anyway.
Back when I was an artist, we would joke that, like, you know, green screen's a great placeholder for roto, but especially with some of the stuff we get back where they would, you know, take the green screen, like fold it up, like out of the back of the truck and just like roll it out. And you're just like, ugh, try.
Yeah. Try, please. So for the...
This is part of the reason why I love this fucking show, because like there are so many insanely unnecessary like sequences of violence in it. It's just so great.
For the actual explosion here though, like,
Yeah.
it's a whale exploding from a boat hitting it.
I know. So this is what's so great about this show. If I were on most other shows, we probably would have had like a tennis ball for the whale. But no, they built a whale set. Like they built a full-on whale set. Once they hit it and the boat goes into it in that profile shot, that's the real set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we added some blood and we added some water spray, but that's actually doubles on a special rig that our special effects team, who's awesome, they pulled the boat into a pre-existing hole and had 150 gallons of fake blood that they shot at him. There's GoPros that we painted out on it. We shot like all these different angles and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that shot right there really sells the realism.
So the profile one and the one behind it are both real.
Even the mouth opening up like that?
Real, yeah, the mouth, it was an animatronic whale. The tail and the mouth could move.
Oh my God.
They did build this practical whale set to work as an exterior and an interior. So when you see the stuff inside the whale, it's the same set. We did minimal visual effects work to cover up add a little bit more wetness. We made some of those organs pump.
I was about to say that heart.
But a lot of that, especially like all the blood on them, all the guts around them, that's all real, man. Like our team, you know, our makeup guys and our costume guys are out there just dumping blood on our...
The amount of fucking time, energy, initiative, funds that they use just to make that one scene work is, I mean, it's gross, but I really respect it. It's wild.
Our cast, and poor Jack, who plays Huey, it's a kind of a running joke that we just cover him in blood like, all the time. Because sometimes it's so important for the actors and the camera and everything to experience it. It's hard to explain. It's like a different feeling.
Oh, fucking diabolical.
Hey, listen, if you have someone that you think you should be on the show, leave a comment down below and we'll do our best to try to get them on the show.
Ma'am, your nose.
Oh, that last shot! Oh, this is just like, she's still there. She's still squirting out blood. Oh, God.
Bro, this happens so much. It happens, like, by the way, this is the entire fucking Boys franchise. Like, every episode, there's just, like, such unnecessary gore.
So fun to see you guys' reaction. The special effects team,
and yeah,
we
it is
developed
worth
this way back
watching.
in
It's really
season 1
good.
when we blew up Translucent. They have what we call the blood lollipop. And they'll bring a stick out and I have them place it right where the head was with an explosive that goes in all directions. And they do a blood element for me on location. They built a CG head and a brain, and then they did a shatter on all of them. Oh, wow. So we have those elements. Every blood thing was a simulation, and it's kind of, sometimes you throw them out there and see what sticks. You take 5 or 6 of them and stack them together to sort of dial up and down mist versus goop. We also created what we call like the necklace, which is that meaty flap that comes
the necklace?
Yeah. We spent a lot of time in R&D, research and development.
What the fuck, dude? That's so psychotic. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly how the human head explodes. Like, what are you researching, brother?
On this one to come up with what we thought was a really cool, impactful head explosion. I was tipped off early that in the later episode, like, we're going to do a bunch more of it. So my pitch to the visual effects companies, a company called Rocket Science, was let's spend the time here on this because I'm going to get you guys a lot of this down the line.
So you put all of that work into that first headshot so that this scene could happen.
You have 5 minutes to make your opening scene.
One.
I love this shot because it takes that split moment of like,
Yeah, you get actual reaction time.
That's a great example of why special effects is really important because that's real. We blended that in with the CG.
It's AOC. They literally tailored her around AOC, which is crazy.
Keeps going and going and going.
One of the key ingredients here, I feel, for these headshots are the fact that you do keep just like a couple frames of the original plate of their head splitting apart.
Yes.
And I can see it. It's only just like a couple frames, but I can see it. Yeah. And how them two are literally just like standing in the middle of it going, huh, this is strange. What an odd Tuesday.
This is one of my proudest accomplishments of season 2 from a supervision standpoint. The thing about production, especially even a big show like The Boys, you've got a time limit. We had a limited amount of time in this space. We knew we were gonna have to go fast. You have a lot of people. It gets very complicated really fast. The way you gotta plan it is you plan your plan A, your plan B, then you're like C, D, E, and F, because things are gonna go wrong and you're gonna have to start like, shooting from the hip, if you will. So I knew that the first couple booms were what I'm gonna call hero, or the most important visual effect shots. They're gonna hold the longest, and anytime you hold on something for a longer period of time in visual effects, it's gotta look real, you gotta spend more time on set to make sure you get what you need. But again, way back in that first episode, we pretty much figured out
I worked on the VFX for season 1 of The Boys, and we had a folder called Disneyland full of actual gore from medical emergencies for reference. Yeah, it's like fucking watching. There's like an account. There is an account on Instagram that I follow. I forget what it's called. I think it's like Medical Post or something, or Medical School Post, where it's just all real gore from like doctors, doing surgeries and shit. It's really fucked up. I don't know why I watch it, but I don't know. I do. Me dizzy on Reddit? No, that's not it.
The magnitude, like how far it's going to explode, the amount of blood, the necklace, and all that stuff. So they had a template, basically. And so what you see is a linear progression, and we spent the most time on these first 2 shots. And then as the day went, we had less and less time. I was like, all right, it's time to shoot from the hip. But I had a plan. I love coming to set prepared with ideas and backup ideas. That's my favorite shot in the scene, because we had no time to do it. Didn't have time to do plates or green screen, all that stuff. And like, how do we get this done? So I was like, okay, if we get her up against that flat wall and really just compose the one shot and have her duck down and keep on the wall for just enough frames to get a clean plate out of it, we can roto her and build the head into it as one shot. So there's only one plate here. We didn't have time to do the blood lollipop or any of that stuff.
So this is just straight up somebody giving you one shot. And this is all you get, this is all material you get, make something happen.
Yeah, but I knew, I was there, and they were cool enough to respect me and like say, hey, how do we do this? The arterial squirt, and that was like the button, the cherry on top.
I did that little squirt one time on a Lord of the Rings video we did like 6 years ago.
See, there you go.
My favorite part about that shot though is like as she hits the ground, her necklace, as you called it, flaps.
Yeah.
Like flap.
Someone on social media called it the head wedding, which I thought was brilliant.
The head wedding's great.
Mother.
Nick, you asked me a hard question. You asked me why people should subscribe to this channel. And I think people should subscribe if they like watching the videos and want to see them on a regular basis. So if you're not subscribed and you enjoy the videos, please consider doing so.
So there's one more shot I want to look at from The Boys, and again, graphic warning ahead if the exploding heads wasn't enough for you, but you'll see what I mean.
Holy moly.
I love this one.
When I saw this for the first time, I was just like, I couldn't believe it.
This was very, very complicated to pull off for so many reasons you guys don't even know. We did not have time to film this scene when we were shooting this episode. So we came back way later in Toronto in November of 2019 to film this scene on what ended up being the coldest day in history in November in Toronto. It was something like -7 degrees Celsius, and it had snowed the day before. So what you're also seeing, in addition to all these wonderful visual effects, is a complete replacement of environments to get rid of snow. Pretty much breath removal.
Yeah, really. Everyone's breathing.
I've never even thought about that. Something crossed my mind as a thing that one an effects artist might have to do.
Yep. Bless the BG talent and actors for this scene that had to stand out there pretending like they weren't freezing to death. So when he lands, that's a typical example of how we do landing. So it's digi-double into real. Anthony's kind of got his shtick down for jumping up and down now. We've developed that over the years.
But his cape flows down behind him, so that had to have been a digital cape, right?
Yeah, we do digital cape a lot on this show because it helps with the performance and the blending of it.
So the eye lasers, like, part of me is like, oh, this is like the intro to VFX. Like, it's the lightsaber tutorial. Are you guys?
Hey guys, I gotta remind you something of something, okay? Are you ready for this? You're not cool for living in a cold area. No one thinks that. Not a single person on the planet has ever been like, oh wow, that guy is so fucking cool. He lives in a cold area. Same goes for living in a warm area. Okay? It literally does not matter. Whenever people in Texas or Arizona go, fucking 100 degrees rookie numbers, dude, I don't even feel it, brother. Oh, fuck you, like I live in Arizona. Or, same with, -7, that's not cold. Oh, that's rookie numbers. Like, okay, bro, we got it. Okay? You're so fucking tight. You're so sick for living in a cold area. Okay? Also, it's top of the hour every hour. It's time for a 60-second ad break.
Guys elevating beyond that here, or is it just one of those simple things like, you know what, this is all it needs?
What we try and do with superpowers, especially superpowers that exist in other properties, what we really try and do is work off camera properties. In a lot of shots, we really interact with the lenses and the lens flaring as realistically as possible using optical flares, that plug-in.
Oh,
mostly,
really?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Classic optical
Thank you,
flares.
Andrew Kramer.
Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here.
And then we spend a little bit of extra time trying to get the eyes to look a little more subsurfacey, like it's underneath the eye, not just topical. But it's very important when it's light effects from me to have that relationship with human skin and the direction of light. That's really important to try and get that. This one shot of him starting to swipe to people, it's a lock off. We added the camera shake in post. It's plate work. He's on a green screen, and then we had our extras run. We did that plate. Then we had 12 stunt people go out there and do pratfalls, like falling like they're getting lasered. And we moved them all over to the left. So if you look over to the left, you've actually got stunt people that then turn into digital people that if you frame through it are maybe a little too still actually, right? And then you get this CG blood that covers them up quickly so you don't see that much CG. And then you think of things you can put on top. So we made the sign and we cut through the top of it because one of the things with Homelander's lasers is always how it affects the environment.
It's on Amazon
easy
if you
to
want
say,
to watch
okay,
the
he's
show.
going to cut someone in half, but then what about everything behind him?
Yeah.
Did the
The top
debate
shots in a
start?
sense
Oh no, I had
were
no
easier
idea.
to figure out because we knew we were far away enough that the CG would hold up. We have kind of a rule on the show where if they're this big, we can go CG. But if they're medium or closer, we really try and avoid CG people as much as possible. And then these are, we had all of our extras lie on the ground and do a plate for us covered in blood, and then we did matte painting work on top of it. These shots were tough to pull off, actually, and what ended up really kind of being the kiss for these was that little embers that fly in front of them is an inherent lack of movement to matte paintings, and it's difficult to get the motion in there. So.
All right, we'll go to the Georgia one. Fuck it.
According to certified state election results, he lost the state by about 12,000 votes. Do you stand by his narrative that the election was rigged, and do you support his demand that Governor Kemp to call a special session to seek to overturn those results?
Well, first I want to thank the Atlanta Press Club for hosting this important debate. And look, it's vitally important that Georgians trust our election process, and the president has every right to every legal recourse, and that's what's taking place. But I've called for investigations, and now there's 250 investigations open here in Georgia. But the president was also clear that Georgians need to come out and vote for David Perdue and myself because of what's at stake in this election. You know, Chuck Schumer said, now we take Georgia, then we change America. We all know what that change would be. They've been very clear. They want to raise taxes on hardworking Georgians. They want to defund the police. They want to open our borders. They want to implement the Green New Deal. I'm fighting for every single Georgian to live the American dream that I was blessed to live.
Senator, do you believe the election was rigged?
Look, Greg, it's very clear that there were issues in this election. There are 250 investigations open, including an investigation into one of my opponent's organizations, for voter fraud. And we have to make sure that Georgians trust this process because of what's at stake in this election. The promise that Chuck Schumer made was to fundamentally change America, and I'm making sure that we don't go down the road of socialism.
Lisa, your turn to ask a question of Reverend Warnock.
Dr. Warnock, good evening.
Good evening.
As a pastor, there are those who are a little uncomfortable with someone switching from the pulpit to the Senate floor in Washington. If elected, how will you navigate the U.S. Constitution's edict separating church and state?
Thank you so very much. It's wonderful to be here, and I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. I also became aware that Senator Loeffler lost a member of her staff, and I want to extend my condolences to her and also to the family of that young man. Listen, my whole life has been about service. It is why I entered into the ministry, and I am running for the United States Senate as a continuation of that life project. The thing about me running for the Senate is that this gives me an opportunity to work on the issues I've been working on for years. I've been fighting for access to affordable health care. I've been fighting for voting rights. I've been fighting for essential workers, ordinary people, because I know what it's like to be an ordinary person. I grew up in public housing, the first college graduate in my family of 12. I'm number 11. And if it were not for Pell Grants, low-interest student loans, I wouldn't be here. I know the importance of good federal policy.
Right.
Your goal is to work for fighting families, but what does that translate into beyond affordable housing and health care, as you just mentioned?
Well, we got to make sure that we center ordinary people in all of the policy that we do. I grew up with a father and a mother who instilled into me great values. And my dad had a way of saying, get up and put your shoes on. And so he gave me this sense of a work ethic. But if I'm honest, that alone would not put me here on this stage. I mean, here's a kid who grew up in public housing. I'm running for the United States Senate against the wealthiest member of Congress. Only in America is that possible. And I am fighting to make sure that kids like me, whether they are growing up in public housing down in Savannah, Georgia, or rural disaffected communities in North Georgia, that they have access to the American dream that I believe so much in. And I'm concerned that Washington is not focused on ordinary people. You can't tell the difference between Washington back rooms and corporate boardrooms. My opponent represents the worst of that kind of problem. And that's why I'm grateful for this opportunity.
I'd like to respond.
Please do.
Thank you. I was born and raised on a farm. I grew up working in the fields. I waitressed my way through school, and I was the first in my family to graduate from college. I worked hard to live the American dream and became a job creator right here in Georgia. But this type of rhetoric is a distraction from the issues at hand. The Democrats want to fundamentally change America, and the agent of change is my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, someone that has attacked police from the pulpit, someone that has attacked our military, someone that has agreed to raise taxes on hardworking Georgians as much as $2,000 per family off the bats. That's not what Georgians need to get through this pandemic and get our economy going. I'm fighting for the American dream every day.
Okay, Reverend, you're going to have an
Did she
opportunity
just say cash stimulus is bad?
Is going to get to them. It's his turn to ask you a question.
Yeah, I have a question on that same topic. You've been attacked for comments you made from the pulpit about law enforcement and the military, foreign policy, among others. You've also said they're taken out of context, but you made these remarks in a public forum. Why shouldn't Georgians take them at face value?
Look, it's clear to me that my opponent is going to work really hard, spending millions of dollars of her own money trying to push a narrative about me, because she's clearly decided that she does not have a case to be made for why she should stay in that seat. I have worked my whole life to pull people together. I've been working on criminal justice reform. I've worked alongside law enforcement officers to do that work. Several years ago, I actually brought together the law enforcement officers here in this city, the chief of police, the Black Lives Matter activists, the sitting attorney general, families, parents, all in my church focused on working on these issues that we've seen emerge time and time again. And we need somebody who knows how to bring people together rather than using these issues as a political point to be made. These issues are tragic, and our law enforcement officers lay it on the line every day. They have an ally with me. I just think that you can affirm what law enforcement officers do and hold them accountable.
Senator Leffler, 30 seconds.
You know, my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, has called police officers gangsters, thugs, bullies, and a threat to our children. When I gave him the chance to apologize in our first debate, he declined. He's also said that you can't serve God and the military. He's used the Bible to justify these types of attacks and make other divisive statements. What we need is someone who can bring together, that can help us get through this pandemic and rebuild our economy across this country
like a
and right here in
robot.
Georgia. That's what I'm
She's
fighting
so
to do.
Unlikable,
Do you want to put
dude.
that into context?
Sure, I'd love to respond. Listen, this is why I think folks have turned off from politics very often. Because
Good line.
people will turn anything into a kind of cynical political argument. I was preaching that day from a very familiar Matthew text that says you can't serve God and mammon. It was a sermon about a moral foundation for everything that we do, and that when you have everything in order, that actually makes you a better soldier. It also makes you a better senator. And had Kelly Loeffler listened to the sermon, rather than trying to make a cheap political point, she would not have used her advantage as a U.S. senator to make millions on a pandemic while playing it down to the people she was supposed to be representing.
Lisa,
I'd like to respond.
Oh, go ahead, please.
You know, I'm a Christian. I'm a person of deep faith.
Fuck
I don't
you!
need a lecture from someone who has used the Bible to not only justify attacking our military. That's not in Matthew 6:24. It doesn't say you can't serve the military and God. But he's also used the Bible to justify abortion. I cannot stand by and let Georgians not know who my opponent is, how radical his views are, and how he would fundamentally change our country. He's out
You
of
should just
step
say
with
you
Georgia's
got an
values.
abortion. Just lie.
In the second round, you'll get a chance to ask questions of each other. Lisa has one last question.
Just say you
here
got an
for
abortion.
Senator
Shut the
Loeffler.
fuck up.
Senator
just
Loeffler,
lie.
good evening. State election official Gabriel Sterling proclaimed this has to stop. He was
Abortion is
referring to
legal.
threats against election workers, Governor Kemp, and the Secretary of State who received death threats. Sterling warned that false claims of widespread election fraud could lead to violence. He said somebody's going to get killed. At his urging, you responded by denouncing the violence, but some didn't think that was enough. So tell us tonight, what is your message to those who would threaten officials, and have you made an effort to help lower the temperature on the behalf of the Republican Party?
Well, absolutely. As someone who has been the subject of threats of violence, I absolutely denounce it. But you know, here's what's at stake. The future of our country hangs on this state having free,
she's
fair,
so
trusted
bad.
elections. We have built an organization within our campaign to make sure that Georgians trust this process. And President Trump has encouraged Georgians to get out and vote because the future of the country.
Bro, she is so unanimated. It's crazy. She's like a robot.
Folks to trust the process because that's what makes our democracy possible right here. We've got to get to the bottom of these investigations that have started too late. There's 250 investigations, including into Raphael Warnock's voter registration organization for the second time for trying to register voters in New York. That doesn't represent the voice of Georgia. I'm going to fight to make sure that we hold officials accountable for carrying out free, fair, trusted elections that are accurate.
Reverend, I want to ask you about this election. Much has been made of President Trump's refusal to concede, but 2 years ago, Stacey Abrams refused to concede the governor's race, saying that there was voter suppression. Do you think there was voter suppression 2 years ago, and do you think this election has been fair?
Listen, voter suppression is something that happens all across our country. It's happened here in the state of Georgia. But Stacey Abrams did not refuse to acknowledge the fact that her opponent was the governor. Here we are several weeks after the election, and Kelly Loeffler continues to cast doubt on an American democratic election. It's time to put this behind us and get focused on the concerns of ordinary people. While she's playing political games, trying to represent somebody who doesn't live in Georgia, Georgians are wondering when are they going to get some COVID-19 relief. They're wondering who is going to put small businesses in front of the large corporate giants. And they're wondering when are we going to call the people, give the people we call essential workers an essential wage. I want to go to the United States Senate to stand up for ordinary people. And when politicians aren't satisfied with the voters, they try to pick their voters. And that's what's going on right now.
May I respond?
Please.
Radical liberal Raphael Warnock has partnered with Stacey Abrams in these voter suppression conspiracies when, in fact, we have record turnout in our state year after year. And, you know, it's unfortunate that the focus is on a debate about who won the election when this process is still playing out. And President Trump has every right to every legal recourse. But we also have to make sure that Georgians know that we have a process that works, that their vote is counted, and that no illegal votes.
Bro, this is when you have a big city psycho, okay? Try to fucking play the Donald Trump populism game. It's not working.
Not just the radical
ideas.
ideas.
No matter what farm you grew up on, you fucking weirdo. You just sound like a robot, literally trying to repeat Trump lines.
Attack our military and then withdraw funds that would support Chuck Schumer's defunding of our military by 25%. And I'm going to continue to make sure that we come back from this virus strong. I'm the only candidate qualified to help rebuild our economy and get past this pandemic.
All right. We want to get to the point where you can ask each other questions. That does conclude the first portion of this debate. For people just tuning in, you're watching the runoff debate for one of Georgia's 2 U.S. Senate seats. We move now to the second round, where the candidates will ask each other a question. Candidates have 30 seconds to ask a question, 30 seconds to respond to their opponent's answer. Reverend Warnock, you get the first question to Senator Loeffler.
Thank you so much. Senator Loeffler, when you received the private briefing regarding the coronavirus pandemic, you dumped millions of dollars of stock in order to protect your own investments. And then weeks later, when there came an opportunity to give ordinary Georgians an extra $600 of relief, you said you saw no need and called it counterproductive. Why do you think it's counterproductive to help ordinary Georgians in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, thank you for that question, because I've been completely exonerated. Those are lies perpetrated by the left-wing media and Democrats to distract from their radical agenda. Since I got to the Senate, I've worked hard to deliver relief to Georgians during this pandemic, and I'm continuing to do that. But look what Democrats have done. They have stood for stonewalling relief that I voted for twice in the Senate, to deliver relief to families, to farmers, to schools and hospitals. They're playing politics. That's what they're using their lies to cover up. The fact that they don't have a positive agenda to lift Georgians up. They want to defund the police, raise your taxes, implement the Green New Deal that would crush jobs and opportunity. And what I'm working on is making sure that we can get the economy going again, that we can drive forward after this pandemic. And I've been working side by side for my colleagues to make sure that we get that done, and we have delivered results. $47 billion that I brought here to Georgia saved 1.5 million jobs at small businesses.
Americans are such dumb fucking doo-doo brain cunts, though, that they would literally vote for this idiot Kelly Loeffler. Like, I could totally see American Republicans still voting for Kelly Loeffler, despite the fact that she's a fucking robot.
The truth of the matter is, were it left up to her, Georgians would not have received the $600 of expanded unemployment insurance. And they haven't seen any relief in months. And she hasn't done anything. She's done nothing to provide relief for ordinary people, the folks I'm seeing all across this state who are in pain in the middle of this pandemic.
Senator Loeffler, it's your turn to ask a question of Reverend Warnock.
Reverend Warnock, in your writings and your teachings, you've repeatedly praised Marxism and the redistribution of income. Can you here and now, for all Georgians, renounce socialism and Marxism?
Listen, I believe in our free enterprise system. And my dad was a small business owner. And during the Great Recession, you know what I was doing? I was leading my church to build a community center where, among other things, we had a financial literacy center that taught people how to repair their credit, create a 700 credit score community, how to create a business, how to buy a home, how to participate in our free enterprise system. Kelly Loeffler, on the other hand, was teaching the big banks how to hide their investments offshore in the Cayman Islands.